Please welcome Elma.
Thank you. We are back again to have a wonderful, wonderful time here. And I'm going to run through the rules of engagement. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond to the first question and 2 minutes for the subsequent questions. Please limit your responses to your own ideas and your own campaign. Questions from the audience will be allotted 1 minute and will be asked of all candidates. Each candidate agrees to the public view of the forum by participating in the forum. Each candidate agrees to participate in the forum as stated in the letter of invitation. It is our goal to present a forum that educates voters on the views of each candidate. We require that candidates not refer to their opponent's views or actions in the community, but rather they present their own beliefs and plans for the position of representative to the Board of Education. We request that the audience refrain from applause, comments, or outbursts until the end of the forum. There should be no photography other than the recording by Greensboro TV and a photo of the candidates taken prior to the beginning of the forum. I'll do that right now. Yes, yes. And during this, the press is allowed, of course, to take photos. All candidate remarks will be timed to ensure equal opportunity to speak, and there will be 2 timers seated in the center table, these gentlemen right here. One will keep track of the time using a smartphone, the other will hold up paddles or signs for 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. I will rotate the order of the questions so that each candidate will have an opportunity to go first. But allow me to share with you the role of the Board of Education. Members establish policies that govern our school system, including the curriculum, facilities, financial resources, and personnel. The board evaluates the district's achievement and monitors its progress, making sure that goals are met. And we will begin with the first question, and each candidate has 1 minute for their response. We did have a request from the audience that if you would stand and speak, because they can't see the candidates. Do you mind standing when you speak at all? Great, thank you. What, if anything, has been your recent involvement in Guilford County? You have 1 minute. Ms. Dohner.
Hello, everyone. Well, great to be here. I'm Cara Dohner, and I'm standing. Well, I'm glad to be here amongst everyone in this room, because what this tells me is that you're advocates for our community. It's important for you to be here. I've worked in all levels of government. I started on the Hill. I'm working on Capitol Hill. Then I worked for a president and the recent North Carolina governor. But I'm an advocate at heart, and I've been in Guilford for over a decade, and I've advocated for seniors, for children. I currently work in behavioral health care. I work for VIA Health, which is a managed care organization. We manage Medicaid for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, substance use disorders, and also foster care. So I'm really excited to be in this space. There's a lot going on in those different areas, so thank you so much for having us.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Ms. Napper?
Do I need to hold this up or can it be on the table? This is, I believe, for closed caption. Hold it up. Hi, my name is Deborah Napper, and my goal here this morning is to share with you guys my continued work with the Guilford County Board of Education. I am the incumbent for District 5. I have 3 small children, all of which attend Guilford County Public Schools, and I have been on the Board of Education. This will be the 4th year. Obviously, by night, I am a registered nurse, and during the day, I do work with the board and try to keep up with the girls. They wear me out. I love them to pieces. I don't really have that much experience in larger politics. I prefer actually, and had hoped that this board position would be more apolitical, and I genuinely believe that politics should not really be much involved in the Board of Education, because the common goal here is education for our students, and as is defined by the state, a good, free, basic education, and all the socioeconomic factors that play into that we see here. And that's my continued work for Guilford County Schools.
All right, these questions you will have 2 minutes to answer. In 2013, the North Carolina legislature enacted an Opportunity Scholarship Act, which funds vouchers for private school tuition. A proposed change to this act removes the income cap eligibility. What is your position on funding of private schools through the voucher program, starting with Ms. Napper?
My position on funding for private and charter schools for public money is that public money belongs in public schools. Vouchers for families that make 2, 3, 4 times what I bring in for my girls coming from my money is not okay with me, especially when these go to schools that my own children could not attend. Some of them are religious-based and religions that we don't follow, which would automatically exclude my children. Why should my tax money and the money that I work for go to pay for schools that my children cannot attend? These schools are not schools I would have been able to attend as a child. I had a single mother. She would not have been able to transport me to school. She would not have been able to make meals for me every day to take to these schools. The reason I survived and got my free, sound, basic education here in the state of North Carolina is because of bus transport and hot meal cafeterias, and these things come from tax dollars. And we'll leave off by saying that the entire point of the Leandro lawsuit that went through and was passed was to fund North Carolina's free basic education for all students. Thank you. To fund education for all students at all levels, and that is mandated to happen with our tax money. The more money you take away from public education, the less there is for each student available. The other piece of this is that public and private schools are also not held to the same reporting standards as public schools. The teachers are not required to hold the same licensure. They're not required to report the same results from their students or the same disciplinary actions. They're also not required to educate students. They may at any time release any student for any reason they see fit. And now at the state level, there is no recourse for those families whose students are released from private and charter schools. If you're kicked out, it's too bad. Whereas here in Guilford County, we have set up an appeals process that students can follow, much like any adult would, where you can go, if you feel a ruling is unjust, you can speak directly to us at the Board of Education and state your case and see if changes can be made to the disciplinary process, setting students up for success.
Thank you. Ms. Dohner?
I am a proponent of parents having more choice and more control over their children than the government. I will say that we are not, in charge of what the General Assembly does. This is a local school board. I do think we need to take into consideration different incomes. I was a single mother, so I know the struggle is real. And, I think that, we have a lot of choices because maybe our public schools aren't performing like they should. So I'm very concerned about the state of our schools. Page High School, for example, has mold outside of the door. And the HVA system hasn't worked for a long time, which means mold is likely in that school. So I asked the principal the other day, I said, Mr. Nickley, who I think is great, do you get tested for mold, asbestos, and radon? And are those results posted in the paper? And he said no. So I would like to know. I think one thing that we're missing on the school board is transparency. Parents have a right to know the status of our schools. So there are a lot of issues that bleed into parents wanting more choices.
Next question. Are you in favor of the quarter-cent sales tax proposal for the support of Guilford County schools that will be on the ballot in 2024 general election in Guilford County? Why or why not, Ms. Dohner?
I am in favor of the quarter-cent sales tax, and here's why. We need to take care of our teachers. So our teachers are paid 35% less than surrounding counties, and we have to retain our teachers. But this also bleeds over into bus drivers, into cafeteria workers. The one thing that I will say to those in my team looking at me funny, so I do think that we need to have this sales tax binding. So that needs to be something that the General Assembly should take up. I know that John Hardester did propose a bill, it didn't get out of the House. But we need to make sure that that money stays for kids, because that will be $25 million. And also that takes a lot of pressure off of personal property taxes. We are blessed that we have such a great place for travel. We have a lot of visitors. So I think that they can help pay some of that tax. So anyway, I think we need a binding. That's the big push on my end. Thank you so much.
Representative.
Yes, I am in favor of the $0.25 tax proposal. A few things to keep in mind about it is that it will not cover the necessities of daily life. This tax will not be applied to groceries, gas, or prescription medications, which is a core protection for the citizens here in Guilford County, and also make sure that this tax is aimed at the people who come in for outside events. As was mentioned, A&T's homecoming is coming up, UNCG's homecoming is coming up. We have the Coliseum that hosts so many events and venues that this $0.25 sales tax could really bring in some revenue to go directly to the staff in our schools, which is huge. The county commissioners have already passed a resolution saying that this money will be dedicated to our staff in our schools, and we thank them very much for that, because it is, as Ms. Dohner mentioned, at least a bit of security around this money, saying that it will go nowhere else, which is very important, because we all watched what's happened at the state level with the North Carolina Education Lottery money. We won't go there, we'll be here all day. And I do believe it is also important to spread the word about the facts of this tax, simply because it cannot be printed on the ballot of why we are asking for this tax. The only thing that can go on the ballot is just the proposal for the tax. We cannot say why. So yes, I support this tax. We need to spread the word far and wide that this is for our teachers and our staff that directly impact the students in our schools, and it cannot go anywhere else. Our county commissioners have bound it to our schools.
According to the North Carolina Department of Instruction, the end of grade reading and math test results for 2023 school year show that the Black student cohort achieved at a level lower than all other race-determined cohorts for proficiency in reading and math of grades 3 through 8. What are your plans to reduce the achievement gap for Black students in the Guilford County schools? Representative Napper.
The first thing that I believe we need to do is continue our work with the facilities master plan. If you look around at the facilities master plan and the schools that are shown in the worst states, they are typically those in communities that are historically African American and the different cultures that are focused in that areas. And so by building new schools in those areas, not only will we provide for them the best learning environments we can, but we can also continue to attract the top teachers and the top talent. And historically in these schools, the teachers have the highest turnover ratios. So if we can bring good teachers into these new buildings and attract them and get them to stay, it will provide consistency in education for these students who need it most. The other thing that we can continue to do is support them through the socioeconomic factors. One thing that has been put into place while I've been on the Board of Education that I've been happy to advise on in my professional capacity as much as I could was in-house doctor's visits, where we provide a room where the students who complain of some illness can be evaluated with the parents' permission, only with the parents' permission, and seen by a doctor. We've identified several different illnesses, gotten kids treatments, medications, different things like that. And we can also continue to work to make sure all of our children are fed. You can't learn on an empty stomach. And so we'll continue to pursue we will continue to pursue meals for all of our students in these schools, healthcare as we can, and provide them with as much support as we can to make sure that education can be their focus of the day, and they're not sitting there ill on an empty stomach trying to figure out where their medicine and their food is going to come from, and to have the best building and consistent teaching that we can possibly do.
Ms. Dohner.
We are lucky to live in such a diverse area with such rich history. I know Ms. Harrison, that you're the chair of the NAACP for High Point, and the NAACP, they're angry because of the reading scores, and they should be, because out of 10th graders, only 40% are reading at grade level. We have a problem. The status quo is not working. So I've talked to a lot of teachers about this, and they have told me that to get kids in remedial programs, they can't apply for those programs until April. So I think we need to look at our community. We need to find out why kids are failing. What's going on in their homes? You know, the mental state of children is a lot different than it used to be. There is more abuse. There is more addiction. I see horror stories every day in my line of work. So I think we need to prepare teachers to understand that students are dealing with difficult things, and that happens with making sure all staff in school they're trained in mental health first aid. And statistics show that if they get this training, within 3 months they are using this in the classroom.
Next question, speaking of mental health. Child and Adolescent Psychiatric Clinics of North America, in a July 2023 review of the literature, found anxiety has a significant problem since the pandemic. One national survey found more than 1 in 4 children report sleep problems due to worrying and feeling unhappy and anxious. How do you propose to address these and other mental health issues in the Guilford County school system, Ms. Dohner?
We have a lot of examples of anxiety, depression, suicide. We're seeing suicide in elementary age children. I think we need to take a look at how to let these kids decompress so they're coming to school with all kinds of issues. So they don't have a place to be. Just for an example, I have known of children in the foster care system who have been separated from their siblings. They have been through incredible trauma, and they're expected to go back to school and learn like nothing happened. So I think we need to, like I said, arm our teachers with the ability to understand and to see when a crisis is occurring. With suicide rates skyrocketing, North Carolina is now encouraging high school students to become certified in QPR, which is suicide prevention, so they can help identify if some of their peers are having a problem. But I really think we have a lot of issues that we didn't deal with social media. I'm sure some of you saw that in February, the social media companies testified before Congress. With that, 4 of the 5 had to be subpoenaed, and they put in protections for children a week before. So we're dealing with a lot of issues. There's no accountability. We have hundreds of thousands of drug dealers just on Snapchat alone. So they have social pressures. They're being bullied at school. One of my children was bullied at school, and it wasn't handled in the appropriate way. So I think we can always learn as a system, but I'm excited to have those conversations.
Representative Napper.
I do agree with continuing to educate our teachers and support our teachers as it comes to the interaction with their students. Teachers, and I want to put that in a very broad perspective, not just the people sitting in the classrooms, but I'm talking about your gym teachers, your bus drivers, all of your classified staff, as well as your licensed staff, need support because you never know who that child's person is going to be. My teenager actually mentioned to me the other day that she has made a real good friends with cafeteria workers. And if that happens to be, if she goes into crisis and that happens to be her person, I want all of them, everyone in the school who contacts the children, who may speak to them on a day in, day out basis, to have that training that says, uh-oh, there's a problem here. Now what we have to do though is draw a line between what the responsibility of the teachers is and what the responsibility of the mental health professionals are, because we do lay a lot at the feet of our teachers and the staff that are at our schools. So the training as to when there's a problem and when they need a referral for additional help is key. And we have, since COVID, put into place so many more mental health supports in our schools for teachers and for our students. And one of the biggest key pieces of those is making sure that everyone knows how to access those supports. And the more that we publicize and the more that we speak about the supports we put into place, the more use of these supports we see. The numbers of counseling and mental health sessions that have come in keep going up and up on a quarter-to-quarter basis. So these services are being utilized, and we need to keep them in place. And the catch that we're having is some of these services come from monies that come from the federal government that will not come back to us. 2024 is the end of the year, so at this point we are working very hard to secure grants to keep these services available for not just our students, but the staff too.
This is the last question in our series of questions in our first round. The core values of the Guilford County school system are diversity, empathy, equity, innovation, and integrity. The concept of inclusivity is incorporated and a part of the equity statement. In your words, describe diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how you would support these values, both within the classroom and within the faculty and administration. Representative Napper.
I do believe that the best thing that we can do when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion is listen. Listen when a problem is brought to our doorstep. And that can be a problem from anyone of any walk of life. And we've spoken today about everyone from, income levels that, receive vouchers, should they or shouldn't they, all the way down to the kids who wonder where their next meal is going to come from when they leave school at Friday and they don't know what's going to happen over the weekend. So when a problem is brought to your doorstep, the first thing that has to happen is that empathy has to kick in. You have to listen with an open mind, and you have to try to understand the point of view of the person speaking to you. That's not exclusive to students. That also has to come to all of our staff at every level, from those who touch our children directly and help them directly, all the way up to those in the administrative offices that everybody considers out of reach, because everyone needs to feel considered and supported in what they need to run the school system. This is not something that we can close our eyes and our mind to, and in the words, I believe, of Langston Hughes, what happens to a dream-bit bird? If you're not working in a good place, if you're not learning in a good place where you feel you can express everything that you need and learn what you need, it does not dry up like a raisin in the sun. It's going to sit there, and it's going to be a bigger and bigger and bigger problem. So we need to listen to the problems, try to solve them as humanely and with as much empathy as possible. And when people come with solutions, we need to listen to those also, because usually the people with the most practical solutions will be of the same mind of the person that posed the problem in the first place.
Ms. Dohner.
So my master's is in international public policy, and the cool thing about that is I don't have to leave my county to work on those issues. And I'm excited to say that I've worked with members in this room on immigration. It's a passion of mine. I am just amazed that one of our elementary schools in Guilford County has 70 different languages spoken. So I have an interest to make sure that families are able to communicate with their teachers. I have some questions about DEI. I'm wondering how students are liking it. I have researched some of it on the Guilford County Schools website. I see resources. I also see a lot of political influence, and as Ms. Napper said earlier, I don't think politics belongs in schools. I think we need to make sure we're focused on teaching, on going back to the basics, so we don't have holes in our system, so our kids are prepared for the workforce. I think that we need to look at all the cultures here. I mean, we have kids from the Congo. Parents probably can't speak English in a lot of situations, so how are we addressing that? What are we doing for these kids to make sure that their parents understand their homework? So I'm very interested in translation services. But again, we have a very rich history. I think it's amazing that, for example, we have the most people from the Montagnard community outside of the country of Vietnam, right here in the Triad. And so what are we doing to teach all of these kids about the different cultures here? Because it's so rich. We should be going to each other's celebrations. We should be understanding what makes our different cultures so great. But I don't see that happening. So I think there's a lot to be done in that space.
Thank you both. We will now move into our questions from the audience. You'll have 1 minute to answer these questions. In the 2023-2024 school year, the school board and Superintendent Oakley committed to certain sustainability goals for Guilford County Schools, including building to LEED silver standards and transitioning to clean energy. What sustainability goals would you like to see emphasized in the coming year? Representative Napper.
So as far as sustainability and clean energy goes, I do believe that the commitment that we did make is a step in the right direction, but of course we can always do more. I do really appreciate the LEED certified standards that we set, and one thing that I would like to see layered on top of that as we work in that direction is more conversion to solar energy. We have, I believe it is Volvo, if I remember right, that are actually going to gift us a couple of solar buses to try. And so in that event, I would like to see solar panels start to pop up on the tops of our school, solar access points and energy or battery access points for buses that operate on something other than diesel, which is horrid. And just a build up from the LEED certified all the way up to more solar powered support systems.
Ms. Dohner.
I think solar energy is very expensive. I think we need to focus on making sure our transportation system is getting students to where they need to go. I've heard a lot of issues with students not being able to get to appointments, especially doctor's appointments if there's a mental health illness going on with children. I think first and foremost, we need to focus on the health of our kids in our schools. So back to my first statement on knowing what the radon, asbestos, and mold levels are in these schools. I think it's so important. If you look at our next door neighbor, Alamance County, they had to spend millions on mold remediation. So when teachers tell me that they have to paint over their walls, that's not okay. I have a family member who had a premature baby, they think because of mold. And her son now has permanent lung damage. This is a serious issue, and I think we need to focus on the safety of our students before focusing on solar-powered buses.
Next question. Do you believe that trans students should be addressed in the classroom by their chosen name and pronouns? Ms. Dohner.
I think all children in our schools need to feel protected and safe in that space, free from discrimination. I think it's a choice of the students. You know, if a student wants to address someone by their pronouns, they're free to do that. I do not agree with forcing all students to learn and be forced to use them, but I mean, it's a free country. You know, we need to be inclusive of everyone. So if I think that student can educate other children to call them by the names that they choose.
Yes, I believe we do. You know, it's very much along the same lines. Everyone has a right to their own name. You get to be an adult, you can legally change it to whatever you want to. People have 5 million different nicknames. You know, we choose the way that people interact with us quite frequently. And I really don't see very much difference in asking someone to call you by a different name as a nickname or whatever else. And as far as pronouns are concerned, that's a choice of the person, very much like their own name. And the bigger issue, as I see it, is bullying to that effect, which we spoke about earlier with bullying in the schools, is when someone has chosen a pronoun and their old pronoun is used as a method of derision, that becomes a problem. And while you can't force things, kindness needs to rule at the end of the day, and respect for a person's decision when it comes to their own name, I believe.
Thank you. Next question. As a former teacher and mother of a current teacher, I know that cell phones in the classroom are a major distraction to learning. Would you support a cell phone ban for Guilford County schools during the instructional day, Representative Napper?
That is a tough one, because when it comes to cell phone bans, I do have parents come to speak to me and say, there are shootings in our schools. My child needs her phone because if something happens, I want to know then, not when the news sees it fit, which I believe is a fair argument. That said, I also, there again, have kids in school, and the cell phones in the classroom are definitely an issue. Not only in that, but they do also feed into the mental health issues, I believe. Having a constant cell phone with a constant input, it's no less at school than it is at home, and it turns into, when we were kids, we could go home and escape some of the gossip and hard times at school, and now they can't, and I do believe that feeds into the mental health issues. But one proposal that I've had put before me that I think would be very appropriate is like a shelving system or a pocket system. While the children are in class, they can put those phones away for the duration of the classroom, but they aren't removed completely from the student. So if there were a crisis, the student can still potentially access the phone and alert parents.
Thank you.
Cell phones are a distraction. We all know, we all have them. I know our kids could need them for emergencies. So in Guilford County, some schools could choose to implement a strategy for cell phones, and I'm going to talk about him again. Mr. Nagley from Page High School has done so, and he has made it where kids can bring their cell phones, but they are to stay in their bags during the day, which I think is a happy medium where they can access them if they need them, but they're not sitting there with their cell phones and their earbuds in, because I don't see how anyone could really learn in that environment.
And this is our last question from the audience. Do you support or not support our LGBTQ students in our public schools? How would you support these children, and why would you not support these children? Representative Napper.
Yes, I do support these children. I believe everyone in this country has a right to live their own life as they see fit. And I'm proud to say that I am currently endorsed by Guilford for All, and this is the second election cycle where I have earned their endorsement, and it is something that you earn. And to continue to support them, just speak publicly about the fact that they have the right to live their life. And they can make their own choices with their life. And making your choice for your life is not forcing that on anyone else. We all need to be able to live together, to go to school together, and to function together. And we know that school is the basis for adulthood. So when we move these children from high school to adulthood, there is no massive crisis when they meet so many different people, because those so many different people are already there. They're already around them. They're all used to each other, and we can all move to adulthood, go on to college, whatever else you want to do with your time. Easily.
Yeah. Ms. Dohner.
Anyone from the LGBTQ community, of course, at schools need to be protected and respected. There is a no bullying policy with Guilford County schools. The problem is, I don't know if it's always enforced. We need to enforce the laws, the rules we already have, and we need to hold kids accountable. So I think too many times there is no discipline, and kids are being held accountable for any of their actions. So they get a slap on the wrist for being rude or disrespectful to anyone. And what happens if they don't learn about consequences? So they commit a bigger crime when they're 18, and they could be charged as an adult. So I think we have an opportunity here to kind of go back a little bit to the way discipline used to be, making sure people are held accountable. So they understand that these rules are in place for a reason, and so that they learn empathy for others.
Thank you so much for your attention. The forum will be available on the League's YouTube channel and via Greensboro Community TV within the next week. As a reminder, early voting begins on October 17th and ends on November 2nd. The statewide election day is November 5th, and don't forget to check Vote 411 for voting information when it becomes available next week. Thank you all so much for coming today and supporting us. This concludes the Board of Education District 5 Forum. Thank you.
We'll begin.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here with all of you this morning, especially to talk about arts and culture. It is really such an economic center for our community. I'm not sure that people realize how much money arts and culture brings into our community and how many jobs that it represents. You know, when we talk about arts and culture, I think most people have different definitions of what it exactly is. I think some people think arts and culture are galleries and the symphony and the ballet, but it's a whole lot more than that. It is things that go on in small establishments, coffee bars. It goes on in Tanger Center right here in this building. Throughout our entire community, there are nodes for arts and culture. And what's nice about arts and culture is it really is very inclusive. One of our biggest arts and cultural events, obviously, is the Folk Festival. Pre-2020, it brought more than 100,000 people downtown to really introduce people to all different types of arts and culture. It had all different types of music and spoken word and dance and crafts. And it was just a great 3-day festival. But you know, we do that on a smaller scale throughout the entire year. Of course, the Folk Festival is the headliner, but you can go just about anywhere on any weekend in the city of Greensboro and find something great that's going on. Now, I'm really excited about this study. And so I'm going to read a little bit because I don't want to get it wrong. So the arts and economic prosperity is an economic and social impact study of the nation's nonprofits, arts and culture industry. In Guilford County, the sector generated $240.3 million in economic activity in 2022 and $1.6 million in spending in arts and culture organizations, and an additional $1.339 million in event-related expenditures by their audience. That economic activity is supported by 4,335 jobs, and it generates $30.8 million in tax revenue in local, state, and federal governments. You know, I actually think that number might be a little low. When they did the ranking of where tourism dollars went throughout our 100 counties, Guilford County ranked number 5. And that's really pretty impressive considering we don't have mountains and we don't have the beach, usually where people go to spend their money, right? So people weren't spending their money on mountains or beaches and things like that. They were spending their money on arts and culture and entertainment right here in Guilford County. And that is something that we really need to be proud of because we have so many different things for people to come and enjoy. And a lot of those events are unticketed, and I think that's what's really important, is that Guilford County really strives to make it inclusive for everybody. So I am really proud to be a part of this press conference today and to see as it unrolls. But I want us to keep in mind that this really is economic development. We don't talk about arts and cultures as economic development. Now, this said 4,300 jobs. I don't believe that, because we see all the places that are opening up because of the arts and culture that we have. We see all the restaurants that are opening up. We see small businesses. We see the small businesses that are supporting the larger businesses. So I'm excited to see the rest of this, but I do believe that the impact is actually a little bit bigger than we're given credit for. So thank you very much. Enjoy.
I'd like to invite Kay Cashin, County Commissioner, up to talk for a few minutes. Kay Cashin is a national model in the support of arts and culture, and I am grateful that she's able to attend with us today.
Oops. Good morning, everyone. We can do better than that. This is an exciting day, an exciting event. So let me say it again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Wow, that's much better. That's much better. What an exciting day for our arts community and our local community. I'm delighted to join you as we kick off the latest arts and culture economic prosperity study results. And the beautiful, wonderful Carolina Theater is the perfect venue for this. But first, let me bring you greetings from the Guilford County Board of Commissioners and our chairman, Skip Alston. Over the past few years, the commissioners have intentionally embraced the value of the arts. Over the years, I've had the honor of serving on the National Association of Counties Arts and Culture Commission, and as the commission chair, we managed to connect with over 3,000 counties leaders nationwide, shedding light on the substantial impact of the arts on our economies. We dove into hard-hitting numbers, jobs created, revenue generated, showcasing the arts value in education, health, and mental well-being, especially for our veterans and those in detention centers. We underscored how the arts contributed to our overall quality of life and made our communities appealing to prospective industries seeking creative thinkers for bright futures. We partnered with the National Endowment for the Arts and the Americans for the Arts to advocate for sustainability of funding at all levels. I'm pleased that this social impact study is rolling out once again and building upon its 30-year legacy as the largest and most inclusive study of its kind, covering over 373 regions from across all 50 states and Puerto Rico. As a passionate arts enthusiast, and you don't have to be an artist to be an artist supporter and lover, just remember that. You know, you can go and appreciate, etc. But having been one, I've focused on the broad impact of arts in our economy for years. And I can attest to the value that the arts bring both locally and to our region. Having been in business in that field, I know how it affects our total community. In Guilford County, approximately 60% of the 3.2 million nonprofit arts and culture attendants were residents, and 40% were non-residents. Non-local attendees spend an average of 85% more than local attendees, roughly $53 to our local spend of approximately $29. and most of that would probably be in lodging and food. A vibrant arts and culture community keeps entertainment spending local. The arts aren't just about paintings and performances. They draw tourism and foot traffic to our downtown and restaurants, sustaining jobs in security, food services, ticketing, and more. A vibrant arts community attracts new residents, tourists, and businesses, strengthening the visitor economy. In Guilford County, over half of nonprofit arts and culture attendants were residents. Our citizens, love the arts in all mediums. They love events, and they will attend. If we don't have them here, they will attend somewhere else.
Just these guys to shove in down beneath, and then this one up top.
Temperament strip.
Yeah, so these I think are called muting wedges, and then this guy is the temperament strip. And it is a little quiet. So up high obviously does not ring out as loud as the low ones, especially when there's only one string. So you got the middle one all good, and then we'll tune up the left to match the middle. I'm gonna go a little past. Can you hear the beat?
I think that's what sports is the most. And I think that parents have to realize that, you know, the chances are your kid's not going to be a professional baseball player or professional basketball player or maybe even a college player. But just give it all you got. The one thing people say, my son's never going to be a pro baseball player. Well, how do you know? Give it all you have, because I didn't think I was going to be one, right? Give it all you got, and then figure, you know, and if you give it all you got and it doesn't work out, then you're not good enough, right? And maybe you're not. But how do you know at 13 if you're not good enough to play pro baseball at 20? How do you know? But just because you're great at 13 doesn't mean you're going to be great at 20.
Because there's a lot of people chomping at the bit.
You better
now.
believe it.
And you know all. I mean, you, like we said, you know all about this because you're in that world. But you know, I guess from when you were starting, from when you were a kid, and I'm sure there were camps and things, but now it is just elevated.
Yeah, I never went to a baseball camp.
Right. That's
Never.
what I'm saying. Is you
Never.
usually played with your friends
Yeah,
or whatever.
that's all.
You might have had a league team.
I learned more about baseball playing without coaches than I did actually playing in the Glen Oaks Little League, right? We used to go out and play wiffle ball and stickball and baseball on the baseball field if nobody was there. I learned more about baseball that way than I did. And the competitiveness against your friends, these are your buddies, and all you wanted to do is beat the you-know-what out of them on the field, whether it was football, basketball, hockey, baseball, it didn't matter. And then after the game, go to the pizza place and let's have a couple of slices and a Coke, you know? So I think that's what people got to realize. I remember when I went to I didn't say this before, but when I went to spring training, my first spring training, I looked out on the field, and there were 50 guys that could do what I could do, that were a foot bigger than me. You know, reality sets in, right? Okay, who they gonna choose? If I steal 40 bases and he steals 40 bases and we're against each other, who they gonna choose? A 6'4" guy or a 5'5" guy? So, but again, I graduated college already. I knew, I was smart, I was realistic, right? But I wasn't ready to go into the real world yet, so I just kind of milked it for 3 years, you know, and had fun doing it.
Yeah, and we fill those spaces in between. There are opportunities to grab a bite to eat, to sit down in a park, in Center City Park. There's lots of booths. A lot of our supporters are going to have ways for people to engage, get giveaways, coupons, all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, we've got our Makers Marketplace, which is our crafts marketplace along Market Street. So we have a juried selection of crafts artists who are going to be selling their handmade items over the course of the weekend. So there's a little bit of something for everyone, even in those in-between spaces.
I always spend money when I go, you know.
Good.
I love how people say, oh, it doesn't cost to go to the festival. Well, when I go home, I look in the billfold and it did. But I bought some really nice things.
Well, and those businesses appreciate your patronage there.
And the food, I mean,
That's right.
the smell of the food downtown, that's always that's a winner.
Yeah.
Just when you go downtown, you smell those open grills, the food trucks. That's part of it.
That's right. That's right.
Can you tell me about what the economic impact of this is around the area?
So the festival, the last time we did an economic impact study, what we estimated was that in direct expenditures, the festival had an economic impact of about $6 million. Which, you know, what that accounts for is, as you mentioned, we're free admission, so we don't have a way to measure the tickets.
Right.
You know, like there's no ticket revenue. But in surveys that we do, we collect a lot of information about, you know, from people about how they spend money beyond that, since we don't charge them that. On food, people spend money on gas to get here. They spend money on childcare, if, you know, depending on who they are, whether or not they bring their children in. And so we do have a lot of information that talks about, on average, how many people, you know, how much people spend on average outside of that. And that's where they're spending their money. They're also spending it at downtown restaurants. And the shops, and we encourage them, we point people in our wayfinding to go down Elm Street, you know, check out everything that's down there, and then like you said, you know, there's some other things that, you know, are difficult to measure, but people spending money at hotels. There are people who are traveling here.
I'm a believer. Will y'all have fun and just go lift the spirits of everyone?
believe that more thought, the city then that he has in his, I replaced it with teepees here, and I put it in our Badlands.